Good evening, Bahamas. On the broadcast tonight, police investigating a triple shooting that has left one man dead. Plus, the Angliston MP hits back at the Attorney General's claim of race baiting and scaremongering. And hear the feedback from over-the-hill business owners on the Prime Minister's plan to revitalize the inner city.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news, the weekend edition, and thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Knowles. Topping the news, police here in the capital are investigating another fatal shooting tonight. 3 men were reportedly shot earlier this afternoon in the area of Shirley and Fowler Streets. Now, when police arrived on the scene at Fowler Street around 12:45 p.m., they met 2 males suffering from gunshot wounds.
Subsequently, officers were directed here at Shirley Street, west of Fowler Street, where they discovered the lifeless body of a male who was lying at this construction site. The police officers contacted EMS personnel who came to the scene. They examined both male victims who were found on Fowler Street. They were transported to the accident emergency section where they are undergoing medical attention. Other EMS personnel pronounced the male deceased on the scene.
Now, at the time, officer in charge of the Central Detective Unit, Chief Superintendent Solomon Cash, could not give the condition of the 2 men who were taken to hospital. However, he did say that officers were at the accident and emergency with the men to try and gather some information. A portion of Shirley Street was blocked off to vehicular traffic as officers carried out their investigations.
The only information we are working with thus far is that these persons were here at this construction site when 2 persons approached them and gunshot erupted. We don't know the motive for this latest homicide, but we are appealing to members of the public who live in this area or who may have been passing the area during the time of this incident to contact the police at 911, 919, or the Central Detective Unit at 502-9991.
This latest incident comes after a man was shot and killed while sitting in his vehicle at Farrington Road on Friday night. Police have since taken 2 men into custody in connection with that particular murder. Meantime, 5 people were taken into custody yesterday after being found in possession of dangerous drugs. A joint operation between Drug Enforcement Unit officers and U.S. Drug Enforcement agents seized a large quantity of cocaine during a search of a Haitian freighter vessel which was docked in Inagua. The boat's captain and 4 other people were arrested. Investigations continue. In other news this evening, days after Attorney General Carl Bethel accused the Progressive Liberal Party of race baiting and scaremongering when it came to discussion over government's commercial enterprises bill, Angliston MP Glenys HANNA-MARTIN says it is what it is. She said as much as the Free National Movement seeks to run away from the truths of its past, their efforts are in vain. Kyle Joaquin reports.
According to HANNA-MARTIN, the history of the FNM speaks for itself.
I'm not sure where the race baiting comes in. I think what he may be referring to is that this kind of thing was the policy of the United Bahamian Party. That's history.
Attorney General Carl Bethel has defended Immigration Minister Brent Simonet amid claims that the government's commercial enterprises bill is Brent's bill. Bethel said this term has nothing to do with the kind of political figure Simonet is and has everything to do with his race and his legacy. However, HANNA-MARTIN says the FNM is only seeking a distraction away from the facts and what this new bill is really about.
It's in truth a work permit bill. And what it is it's giving incentives to foreign investors with minimal investment, very low bar, $250,000. Giving them incentives of work permits. I've heard what the Attorney General says, after a year, these things, they won't get another work permit. The bill does not say that at all. It says that they will have work permits fast-tracked, that it would be for very wide areas of endeavor in these industries, that you don't have to invest very much. And in fact, I believe I heard the Minister of Financial Services and Immigration, Honorable Brent Simonet, say that if it's a call center, all you need is like 4 or 5 computers in a room. And so this is the kind of, we're down to this type of discussion on foreign direct investment and giving work permits.
The Commercial Enterprises Bill has been heavily criticized in recent weeks, with criticism even going from an unlikely source, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram.
And I think that all of these sort of allegations and assertions are deflections from this very retrogressive piece of legislation this government has brought. It is, I'm personally offended by it, because it is taking our people back and it is flying in the face of those who fought so hard to gain momentum and ground for the Bahamian people.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Business owners and residents of several over-the-hill communities flocked to a town hall hosted by the Prime Minister, where he laid out his highly anticipated plan to revitalize the inner city. While the plan was well received, some business owners are wary that tax incentives may be directed to large businesses that they say don't contribute to the community development. Our Jared Higg reports.
George Robinson is the owner of Base Road Wholesale Bar located on Nassau Street. He and several other business owners from the Baintown area keenly listened as the Prime Minister and his team outlined lucrative tax breaks for the community, including no real property tax or no business license fee and duty-free concessions on building supplies and vehicles. Robinson says it's welcome news, but it's small businesses with roots in the community that should benefit, not big conglomerates.
Us as small businessmen, we are hurting and we need a break from the big conglomerate, because in our business, which is the liquor business, they are phasing us out, and we have the giants now trying to come in the inner city. And we feel like the inner city should be for the small businessman. And with the incentive that they are going to give us, we got to ask the government not to let these big conglomerates come into Baintown and enjoy these incentives, because they don't need it.
Robinson says business has slowed over the past several years, due in part to competition from Chinese merchants who've historically made gains in the grocery business but are now flourishing in the retail liquor market. It's something he says is creating challenges for his business.
We are Baintowners. Anything happen in Baintown, the resident comes to people like myself, Koiki Rabbit, for support. If they need relief from, say, sickness, fire relief, all the pet projects that happen in Baintown, they come to us. They don't go to the big boys. So we don't want them to come and reap some of our reward, because they don't give back to Baintown. I born in Baintown, Mr. Lightborn born in Baintown. We grew up in Baintown, and we give back to Baintown.
In laying out the plan, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll says in order for businesses to enjoy the tax breaks, they'll have to engage in some sort of positive community initiative. Javon Colbrick is a relative newcomer to the business world. He says his bicycle rental business, aimed at the tourist market, could really use a tax break for a vehicle to haul his 20 bikes for hire.
When it comes down to you, let's say I'm running my business now. I need a vehicle to move my stuff around. He's mentioned a point that, okay, if you can prove that you need this vehicle or this type of equipment, there'll be no type tax. And that's a plus to the smaller guys that are trying to start a business.
Colbrick may be new to business, but he says he and his fellow residents shouldn't be underestimated.
The people in Baintown are no fools, okay? They're straightforward people, so if you take the time to hold a meeting, you should be serious, because at the end of the day, you're going to need us again.
Colbrick and Robinson will have to wait and see what's on that white paper outlining all the details of the tax benefits. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, the Office of the Prime Minister released its Inner City Rejuvenation Project last week. The plan includes tax breaks for the inner city, as well as a $5 million annual investment in the project's goals. Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll is heading up the initiative's technical team. She says they're drafting the legislation that will set the legal framework for their effort.
We are in the process now of drafting legislation around the establishment of the Over the Hill Community Development Partnership Initiative. So there will be a Nassau Over the Hill Rejuvenation Bill that will define the zone. So we still have time for comments around that. That will define the minister and the agency responsible for this. That will establish a foundation so that this fund can raise funding externally, as well as accepting government funds, so that you can fund projects. We'll have an agency responsible for this. We'll define all of the concessions being offered and the social responsibility clauses, and also breaches for penalties for breaches.
Virgil Roll also outlined a part of the initiative aimed at providing a space for roadside mechanics to engage in their trade.
We're also going to be launching, as part of the Phase 2 work, a plan to create a strategy to create an auto mechanic cluster, which will eliminate the proliferation of the roadside mechanics. So we're using both we're using both the carrot and the stick here. We don't want to just displace persons. We want to make sure that there's a cluster, that there's a setup that you can go to and establish your own business. You are small business people for any of the auto mechanics in here, and you are valued. And we want to make sure that you have the best opportunity to expand your business, to grow your skill, and to set up so that you can get even more business.
Well, after what appeared to be months of silence on environmental issues, the Environment Minister is addressing pressing concerns about the landfill. With more, here's Giorgio Bain.
Environment Minister Amal Ferreira says the city landfill is his #1 concern, adding that his ministry is overlooking expressions of interest and he will be examining every aspect.
The situation at the New Providence landfill is the #1 in my estimation, based on my private advocacy before I entered into politics and some 27 years or so of environmental consulting, the #1 environmental challenge that we face. It's smack in the middle of New Providence Island. Depending on what direction the prevailing winds are, if there's a fire event there, it can impact us all. And so this is one of the priorities.
According to the Environment Minister, the previous management company, Renew Bahamas, was unsuccessful for several reasons, even resulting in the government having to pay the company $1 million upon departure.
When it comes to landfill management and the expression of interest that we have there, you can make the two ends of the spectrum. You can concentrate on recyclables, as what you're talking about, and try to earn money from the revenue stream from recyclables, and recycling and reusing and reducing, which is a very important component because we're importing plastics all the time, waste all the time, but none of it is going out, right? And which is why I hinted at the plastics, and I'll be back to talk a little bit about that some more. But that's one end of it. And that's what Renew Bahamas tried to do. But they were very unsuccessful for that and other reasons, to the tune that the government had to give them I think approximately $1 million to assist them before they departed.
For those seeking to submit expressions of interest for the New Providence landfill, the minister says they will simply be looking at Renew Bahamas' business plan and adding the human interest portion.
You have waste to energy when you manage a landfill, whereby through gasification of solids, you're turning that into energy. And those are the two ends of the spectrum. In between, you have a hybrid of any one of those models. A wise person that is submitting an expression of interest for the landfill will probably have a hybrid of those two.
According to Ferreira, Bahamas Power and Light is interested in offering a power purchase agreement.
Bahamas Power and Light has already said that they are open to a power purchase agreement from the New Providence landfill when we come to that stage, and that would have to be negotiated. So that's very important. We have said in our expression of interest that whoever is going there is completely unfettered in what they propose. We have advised those who have come to the ministry, who have spoken to me individually, that we are also looking for that social component, because there's a human factor to this. There are people whose lives have been tremendously impacted by fire events at the landfill.
Reporting for Our News Weekend Edition, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. We'll take a break here, but still ahead tonight. Hear what the former State Minister for Legal Affairs has to say on the death penalty. That story and more when Our News returns.